Spin-off, dumbass.
But remember when The Rock was shitting on his music?
That was fantastic.
That guy, you know what he does? He just goes to the gym.
The Rock
with 2 hours sleep.
A lot of steroids.
You think?
Joe.
Do you really?
You think he's getting big like that from cocaine again?
Cocaine again? He used to do cocaine?
No, I'm saying the John Jones thing.
Jason Statham and The Rock refuse to lose fights against one another.
Jason Statham, come on, bro.
That actors including Jason Statham, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and Vin Diesel have contracts demanding that limit the amount of punishment their characters take in fights.
Because they don't want to look like bitches.
Oh, good Lord.
You imagine telling your agent that? Like, I'm down to do it, man. But I read through the script. When he punches me in the face, I'm not going down, bro.
For most of his time in the spotlight, The Rock has been known as a straight-up physical monster. Built like a walking statue, always the biggest presence wherever he stepped, no debate. At his peak, he was pushing past 300 pounds of solid muscle. And that size wasn't just for looks, it was the whole point. Being massive wasn't just his image, it was the brand. Larger than life wasn't a slogan, it was the blueprint for his entire career. But lately, fans started noticing something that felt off. New photos began popping up online, and suddenly The Rock looked smaller, like a different version of himself. Reports say he's dropped over 60 pounds, and there's no hiding it. That oversized comic book muscle is gone, replaced by a leaner, more regular build that nobody saw coming. Even his face looks different now. Sharper lines, slimmer features, and that thick, blocky dominance just isn't hitting the same. The internet split instantly. Some people say he looks healthier, calmer, like someone who finally stepped off the nonstop grind. Others aren't buying it at all. They say without that massive frame, he doesn't stand out the same, and a lot of fans straight up said it feels like he lost the thing that made him The Rock. And yeah, the jokes flew immediately. Memes everywhere saying he went from the rock to the pebble. Funny on the surface, but underneath the laughs, there's a serious question people can't ignore. His size has always been controversial. He's admitted in the past to experimenting with PEDs when he was younger, and plenty of people believe that chapter didn't fully close. Now at 53, reality hits different. A body can only take so much pressure before it pushes back hard. Dropping weight this fast could be about protecting his health and avoiding long-term damage, but it could also be strategic. For years, Hollywood treated him like a guaranteed money printer, locking him into the same unstoppable role over and over. That safety net also boxed him in. Slimming down might be his way of breaking out and finally chasing roles that don't rely on him being the biggest guy on screen. And now, the real question is impossible to dodge. Is The Rock finally ready to flip the script on Hollywood, his image, and everything people thought they knew about him? Earlier this month, he showed up at the Venice Film Festival for his new movie, The Smashing Machine. And right away, it was clear this wasn't business as usual. No glossy explosions, no cheesy catchphrases, no superhero energy. This was something completely different. The film is a character-driven story centered on Mark Kerr, a dominant MMA fighter from the late 90s who rose fast and crashed even faster. Once addiction and personal struggles took over, everything spiraled. It's gritty, uncomfortable, and miles away from the safe roles Dwayne usually plays. With Emily Blunt cast as Kerr's wife, Dwayne didn't play it safe for even a second. He physically transformed to match Kerr's intimidating build and used heavy facial prosthetics on his nose, brow, cheeks, and jaw to fully disappear into the role. For the first time in his career, he wasn't selling the Rock brand at all. No winking at the audience, no charm shortcuts, no invincible hero vibes. He wasn't trying to win the room, he was trying to become someone else entirely. When the movie premiered in Venice, the reaction said everything. The crowd gave him a standing ovation that lasted over 15 minutes. He looked overwhelmed, visibly emotional, holding back tears as it happened. Critics didn't just praise the performance, they called it vulnerable and career-defining. Some even compared it to The Wrestler and Raging Bull. That kind of conversation is brand new territory for him. For once, he wasn't being talked about as a box office cheat code, but as a serious actor. At the press conference, he admitted this was the kind of respect he'd been chasing for years. And what really stands out is the role itself. Mark Kerr represents everything Dwayne's on-screen persona used to avoid. Loss, weakness, addiction, public collapse, none of that fit the old image. Kerr was a champion, but also a man who unraveled in front of the world. For someone whose contracts once guaranteed he could never lose a fight, stepping into that reality is a massive shift. This is a hard break from the old formula. For years, Dwayne was basically playing himself. Whether it was Fast and Furious, Jumanji, San Andreas, or Jungle Cruise, it always felt like the same version. Shredded action hero, cracking jokes, taking hits, saving everyone, and walking away untouched every single time. That formula became his calling card. It wasn't just about size, it was about being untouchable. His movies weren't built around characters, they were built around a product. And while that product pulled massive crowds worldwide, it never earned him real respect as an actor. Still, the system worked. He climbed to the top, became the highest paid actor in Hollywood, and built a global brand around one unbreakable image. That's why this shift feels so shocking. The weight loss, the darker roles, the serious tone, something clearly forced a reset. And part of that may come down to health. Just months ago, Dwayne appeared on Dr. Mark Hyman's podcast and opened up about a serious health scare. Doctors initially thought one of the arteries in his heart might be blocked. That news hit hard enough that he immediately got a second opinion. After advanced eye scans, doctors confirmed there was no plaque at all. But moments like that change how you see everything, especially when you've spent decades pushing your body to extremes. On paper, it was just a harmless irregularity. Everything checked out fine in the end, but scares like that don't just disappear, especially at 53. When heart issues even enter the conversation, time suddenly feels very real, very fast. Limits stop being abstract and start feeling unavoidable. He's pushed his body to the extreme for decades, and that's where things get interesting. The podcast itself ran nearly 40 minutes, covering gut health, nutrition, genetics, and heart risks in detail. Yet, there wasn't a single mention of steroids or performance-enhancing substances, not once. For someone whose physique has been questioned for years, that silence spoke louder than anything he actually said. That didn't happen by accident, and the internet noticed immediately. That episode now has more than half its viewers smashing the dislike button, and the comment section tells the real story fast. Scroll for 5 seconds and you'll see the same question over and over again. How do you talk for almost 40 minutes about your health and completely dodge the one thing everyone's thinking about? People aren't dumb. They know if there's one thing that could have put serious strain on his body over the years, it's PED use. Whether he ever admits it publicly or not, that conversation has followed him his entire career. Ignoring it didn't make it disappear, it just made people talk louder. One Instagram user even dropped a breakdown video pointing out changes in Dwayne's physique, claiming the weight loss came from stepping off gear. What shocked people wasn't even the video itself, it was what happened next. The Rock jumped straight into the comments and shut it down, saying it was 100% not true. That kind of response is rare for him. He almost never engages with random online speculation, which made it feel like that comment hit a nerve. According to Dwayne, the weight loss has nothing to do with health scares or steroids at all. He says it's purely for his next project. That project is a film called Lizard Music. In it, he plays an eccentric older character known as the Chicken Man, a role that demands a slimmer, more fragile look. Compared to a comic book build, that explanation does check out, especially after bulking hard for the Smashing Machine. Slimming down now serves two purposes at once. It lets him step into a completely different kind of role, boosting his credibility as an actor, and it gives him a clean reason to drop size without directly addressing health concerns. Still, a lot of people online aren't buying it. At 53, after decades of physical punishment, carrying that much muscle just isn't realistic long-term. Longtime fans feel like they can see right through the official explanation. One commenter went even further, claiming Dwayne must have been warned by a doctor that staying on gear could increase his risk of a heart attack. Others started drawing comparisons to Hulk Hogan, another wrestling legend whose career was built on size and who later passed away from heart-related issues. That comparison sticks hard, especially when you've lived in the same world, followed a similar path, and now you're deep into your 50s. Through that lens, the timing of Dwayne's dramatic weight loss feels less like coincidence and more like self-preservation. But here's the part people don't talk about enough. Going from years of extreme physical strain to suddenly cutting everything cold doesn't just make someone smaller. It can shock the system in a bad way. That's why many believe it wasn't a full stop at all. More likely, it was a scale back. Lower intensity, more sustainable habits, enough to stay solid without pushing his body to the edge every single day. The slimmer look might be opening doors in Hollywood, but it may have quietly closed one too. Dropping size doesn't just change how casting directors see him, it changes how fans see him in a completely different world. Earlier in 2024, Dwayne stepped back into WWE storylines and even headlined WrestleMania alongside Roman Reigns. That appearance had fans buzzing. Supporters of Cody Rhodes were convinced a full in-ring return was coming. But after seeing him in Venice, that idea feels way less realistic. Without the bulk, some of that larger-than-life presence just isn't there anymore. A promo or short cameo still makes sense, but carrying a WrestleMania main event the way he once did now feels like a long shot. One fan summed it up perfectly, saying it's hard to be the final boss when you're half the size you used to be. Without that towering presence, he's no longer the unstoppable wall he once was. A Rock versus Cody Rhodes showdown, or even Rock versus Roman Reigns, just doesn't hit the same now the way it would have a couple years ago. And knowing what's been said about Dwayne's pride, it's hard to picture him stepping into a face-off where he looks visibly smaller than the guy across from him. That's not the image he built his legacy on. What makes this even more interesting is that Dwayne isn't the only wrestler turned actor going through this shift. Back in 2024, fans noticed a similar transformation with Dave Batista. New photos showed him far leaner than the thick, muscle-heavy build that defined his wrestling days. Peak Batista is slightly older than Dwayne, and his downsizing carried the same quiet message. At a certain age, hauling around that much mass just isn't realistic anymore. The risks stack up fast, and the toll on the body isn't worth it. Batista was open about it too. After bulking past 300 pounds for Knock at the Cabin, he admitted the size felt miserable, heavy, and draining. Once filming wrapped, he leaned out through diet changes, intermittent fasting, and jiu-jitsu, explaining that the lighter frame made him feel healthier, more mobile, and more comfortable in his own skin. For Batista, that comfort was a bonus. The real goal was survival and longevity. And it's no coincidence that his transformation and Dwayne's happened around the same stage of life. That's where the comparison gets really interesting. Because while they've landed in similar physical places, their paths in Hollywood couldn't be more different. Batista never chased fame the way Dwayne did, and that difference matters. Yes, he broke out in Guardians of the Galaxy, but instead of cashing in on copy-paste action roles, Batista went the opposite direction. He didn't chase explosions or easy wins. He deliberately worked with directors who cared about performance and character, not just opening weekend numbers. That's how he ended up in films like Blade Runner 2049, Dune, and Knives Out. Those roles didn't turn him into a cartoon action hero. They earned him real respect in serious film circles. Batista became a household name quietly, without hype, without forcing it. Critics took him seriously. Directors trusted him. He stopped being seen as just a former wrestler with muscles and started being viewed as a legit actor who could disappear into a role. Batista approaches acting like a student. He's willing to look foolish, uncomfortable, or weak if that's what the character demands. That mindset is rare, and it shows. For Dwayne, it's always been different. His choices have always been about optics. How dominant does he look? How untouchable is the character? How many tickets does it sell? How does it feed the brand and the businesses attached to it? Ego has always been part of the equation, and that's why the timing of the Smashing Machine and Lizard music feels so telling. In just 2 projects, he went to opposite extremes, bulking up to play Mark Kerr, then slimming down to portray a fragile older man. On the surface, those moves look contradictory, but at the core, they're the same play. An attempt to conquer the one thing that's always escaped him. Because no matter how dominant his box office run has been, no matter the fame or the money, there's one label he's never fully earned: credible actor. And the cracks in his old formula were already showing. Black Adam was sold as his passion project, the movie that would reshape the DC universe. Instead, it collapsed hard. Reports painted him as trying to take control behind the scenes, pushing for Henry Cavill's Superman return while positioning himself as the center of DC's future. That moment exposed something audiences hadn't fully seen before. And once that curtain slipped, it never fully closed again. When the movie fell apart, the plan fell apart with it. Dwayne was quietly moved out of the spotlight. Not long after, that came Red One, his big holiday release, and it instantly became a punchline online. People dragged it as another bloated studio project. All gloss, no soul. Streaming didn't save him either. Movies like Red Notice were hyped as massive hits, but critics tore them apart. That only reinforced the idea that his films had turned into empty products, built more on branding than storytelling. At the same time, the myths around him started cracking. For years, audiences bought into the People's Champ image completely. Polls even showed nearly half of Americans saying they wanted him to run for president. He was sold as the ultimate success story, the guy who could do no wrong, but that shine has faded. More people now see him as manufactured, a carefully controlled persona, not that different from the character he once played in wrestling. His film career only fed that perception. Despite all the money and fame, Dwayne has never been taken seriously as an actor, and that's why these new projects feel different. This doesn't feel like just another role choice. It feels like a full reset, a push to finally earn respect that slipped past him for decades. And the stakes go way beyond movies. His entire business empire is built on image. Tequila, energy drinks, clothing deals, Project Rock, every piece depends on the idea of a superhuman figure. So if that image changes, everything changes. And now the real question is simple. Is this reinvention too late, or is this the moment Dwayne Johnson finally becomes more than the brand he built? If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Drop your comments down below and let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.